Come on, sir. Nice to have you back, man. Just got done finished watching another banger. Well, if you want to call it a banger, um, let's get your take on what we just saw, man. What you think?
What was that? Rosario?
Rosaria. Nice, another horror film to put inside your repertoire. Another horror.
You know I'm not a super huge horror buff, but when I do see one, I like to see good ones. This one I cannot call a good one.
Oh,
I
you didn't like it?
well, I don't recommend it. I don't recommend. Not if you're a really big horror fan, and if you're an adult horror fan.
What didn't you like about it, brother?
Number one, okay, the characters in it are supposed to be uh Latino or Latina, whatever you wanna call it, and they make it like it's like they're Puerto Rican or Dominican or Cubano.
Well, they are from they are from the same branch.
No, they're not. I mean, they're not. But then close to the end of it, when they started to give a little background, they made it seem like that they were Mexican. Because they were kept talking about crossing the border. They showed the green and white patrol cars that that's the color of the border patrol. And I'm like, well, maybe they were like from the islands and then went to Mexico first because if you were the music that they were listening to, the type of music that they were listening to, the type of language that they were speaking, if you looked on the pictures on the walls, and how it had like the Afro Latinos mixed in with the more European looking Latinos. That's all signs of every time I go, and especially being in New York, there's not a lot of Mexicans in New York. There's Puerto Ricans, there's Dominicans, and there's Cubans. I mean, there are some Mexicans, but like they lost me on that. You know what I'm saying? And
On a little bit of a culture mix up. Sound like
culture mix up.
because I looked at it as when it first came on, I didn't think Latina, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
think Mexican right off the jump.
Mm-hmm.
But as the story went on, I thought
Mexican.
it's Mexican. It's a Mexican story
Right,
as it
right.
as it went on,
Mm-hmm.
especially as she got older and she's trying to figure out the whole
Mm-hmm.
um, possession spell or ordeal. What was your take on that?
Again, when she's reading about the possession and the history of it, when she got on her phone to look at, she kind of Googled like, "What did you do to me?" She wasn't sure what was happening. So when she got on her phone and she was Googling everything, it even said Afro and Latino.
Right? Yeah, I heard that.
You know what I'm saying? So then it was like, oh, okay, this is this particular type of I mean, I'm not saying that there's no Afro Latino in Mexico. There is a fairly decent Afro Mexican community, but I mean, you don't really nobody really talks about them. Uh, Nobody, it's kind of a really small community scattered here and there in places, but I don't know. That's just one part about it. Because when you talk about the horror part, to talk about horror with this film, you're going to be talking about spells and curses and voodoo and witchcraft and demonic possessions and things like that. So it's not really a lot of. It's not psychological. We kind of talked about this on our last clip with Until Dawn. It's not psychological at all. There's no game that she has to play to figure it out. It's nothing that she has to no puzzle she has to put together, other than the fact of her trying to figure out how to do the spell, but she doesn't know what she's doing. She's not a professional at it, so she doesn't do it right. So her winning um, doesn't have anything to do with her trying to figure out the plans or anything like that. So it was just it was very blah, you
Well, what's
know.
your take on the witchcraft spell type of ordeal? Because obviously she got the book, trying to figure it out, but is it something as quick as let me just do a quick Google and I can find the answers to this thing and get free?
On the on the surface part, yeah. Like anytime something comes along, even with me personally, if I don't know it, first thing I'm gonna do is Google it. So, and the way she Googled it is exactly how I would Google it. First you type in some basic stuff that you might know, then you start getting specific about what is actually. So she everything that she saw in the house and in the basement and everything like that, she keyed that in, and then it came up with something, and she read it, and she was like, "Yeah, that's it, Palo." So that part I get, but then when she get to the book, now this is supposed. When you look at this spell book, it looks old. It looks, tattered. It looks like it's been through hell and back, literally. But she's reading it like it's text that was just made out of AI. You know what I'm saying? She was I mean, the words that she was using as she was reading it, it was nothing ancient, nothing mystical about it. Um, so that was really boring. Like if you're gonna, oh God, there's so many movies out there where they do something like that, and they put you in the audience member back in time, like we're going back 200 years, we're going back 100 years. But this one was just everything about it just looked it didn't it wasn't it was so bad it didn't even look. I couldn't even say that it looked like a dream. you know it was just very poorly written, very bad story. uh, she was absolutely breathtaking. You couldn't keep your eyes off her. One of the reasons, like you said, you couldn't keep your eyes off of her because she was the only actress, so the camera was just on her the entire time.
So you think it's a good story out there for the Latino community? Everybody always looking for a little representation. So obviously, do you feel like, well, obviously they got that in this film. It was basically just her.
If they would have got the cultures right, then I would say 100% yes. But one thing that I would hope, if I were someone who had to cross the border, and then I had a second generation or a third generation here in the United States, and they don't really have to struggle the way I had to struggle, then I would hope that a younger person will watch this and go like, that is true. I probably don't need to be such a jerk to my grandmother and my grandfather, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have these Michael Jordan tennis shoes and be going to a great school and things like that, and have this opportunity, for those that do. But for the other, as far as it being a representation of the Hispanic or the Latino community, this is one of those movies. If it was a black community, I wouldn't want. I'd be like, you could keep that, because this don't really represent the black community whatsoever.
Did you think it was some shots at humor in there? I thought the way that she was addressing her grandmother at times, that was supposed to be funny.
Right.
Which,
That little sarcasm.
yeah, I'm like,
Right.
is this supposed to be like a quick funny thing?
The only thing I can do to justify it is that at the time when that was going on, she thought that her grandmother did something wrong. She thought her grandmother is the one who did the curse. But then when she found out that her grandmother was trying to do everything she could to help her, then you notice the sarcasm started going down, and it was more like, I really respect, what they did. And then when the monster took them back in time and showed them, I don't know why the monster would do that. The monster, Caballote or whatever his name is, gave her a vision, Rosario a vision of what her mom was experiencing when she was crossing the border. Well, that's only gonna make me more sympathetic to my mother. That's not gonna like make me upset or make me scared of you. That gives me a little bit more courage to fight you even more now, because I know my mother loves me, because this is what she did to sacrifice.
What was your take on the, I guess you could say, neighbor across the street? Well, not across the street, across the hall. I've seen that guy in something else,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't recall what. You seen him before?
Yes, I don't recall either what I saw him in. As far as my take on him, that is an interesting question, because his point to the whole movie was just to keep me guessing a little bit, I guess. But he had no point. Like, if you were to take his character completely out of it, then it wouldn't have made a difference, other than she would have been 100% by herself the whole time. I mean, like, why not use the manager guy to play that part, unless he was just tied up in, something behind the scenes? But the manager could have uh, had the issue with the air fryer. The manager could have, came in and helped, but he was like kind of sick. The next door
Yeah,
neighbor and
yeah.
everything, but none of that tied to the story whatsoever. None of it did.
I think they use it just for time's sake. You know, she did get out of the apartment. She said, I have to get out of here. She
Mm-hmm.
left.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the weather was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Made it to some random subway.
Mm-hmm.
Was in a subway 5 minutes. The dog chased her away.
Now that was a cool part when they tied that to the dream sequence, because apparently she was already in like some kind of like crossing over to the other spirit type of world. So the dog chasing her is the same dog that was chasing her when they were crossing the border. Like, that was a flashback of that, as far as it being evil. So that I did think was cool, but they needed more of that. They needed more.